All right, hello, welcome again, everyone, to the Jerry Foster SEMO podcast, Music and Arts podcast. I have medicine head. I'm tired. Don't feel real good. That doesn't stop me because I'm feeling my metal today. Because today's guest,
I'm feeling it too,
is my brother from another mother. He comes in at 6'10", 285 pounds of ripped manliness. He's guitarist for Cycle of Ruin, drummer for CYnderblok, longtime friend, very talented guy. Very happy to have him on the show. Very glad to have him. Grateful, Mr. Cory Jackson. I am for real. Thanks for being on here, man.
Yeah, that's the first time I've ever heard that one. Thanks for having me, Jerry. I appreciate it.
Come on.
Yeah, I grew up in the '80s with the last name Jackson. I've heard it all, man.
Anybody ever ask you if you remember Jackson 5? Had to have, right?
They asked me if I was in the Jackson 5, and I told them that I couldn't be in.
You didn't make the criteria?
I didn't make the criteria.
Didn't fit the criteria.
Yeah. I thought they'd let me in. I mean, Michael was white, but...
He wanted to be.
True.
Yeah. You know, I kind of botched up the intro on here. But that's all right. We're here in this lavish studio.
Did you have a theme song you should have played? Or?
You know, I've been thinking about this. You're officially the fourth guest I've had.
Right.
And I keep listening to
I'm a little offended by that, by the way.
Why?
I'm just kidding. I'm kidding, man.
You've lived the furthest away.
It's a joke.
It's first come, first serve, man. I got people beating down my door wanting to be on my podcast.
Yeah, I seen the line out front, and I was like, back up.
Mm-hmm. Like King Cory's in the house. So tell me what you're doing these days. Like, what is imminent? What is, like, the next thing going on between either band?
Well, CYnderblok's pretty constant. I mean, everybody in this area pretty much knows that. We play all the time. Booking gigs with that, that's a chore just in itself anymore in the live music scene. You know that.
Yep.
The Cycle of Ruin stuff, on a little bit of a break from the live stuff, writing, trying to record the new EP, gear. We just got some stuff going on. And
when I hear the word trying, that means it's not happening. Give me an idea of why you're just trying and not doing it. Because I say the same things and I know why I'm trying.
Well, I mean, the hardest thing to do is...
I asked some fucking tough questions too, by the way.
I guess more not the hardest thing to do, but the hardest thing to swallow and realize is that we're not a bunch of like 17-year-old kids that can jump in a car together and go do whatever we want to do. We all have jobs, families, responsibilities, and trying to get everybody in the same room sometimes is a bit of a nightmare. So we just have to make the best of the time that we have, and it's very rare for us all to be in the same room at the same time.
Even when recording?
Yes.
Do you guys track individual parts?
When we did the first EP, it all lucked into where I believe James Miller, drummer, got together with Brant Hutchcraft, our singer, and we did drum tracks, and then we went back later and did guitar tracks, and then our bass player, Aaron Chase, phenomenal bass player, he came in. So yeah, we usually don't all congregate in the same area too often. It's usually even in the writing process, a lot of times it'll be the drummer and I, or the bass player and I, or we just throw stuff around, and then we all get together when we can, try to hash it out. But yeah, there's a lot of distance between us too. I mean, I think there's about 120 or 130 miles between the farthest away.
Is it a situation where you can record at one person's house, send them a file to, like, say, the bass player's house, to Aaron's house?
Yeah, it's getting that way.
He puts it into his, yeah.
It's getting that way. James our drummer has a big setup, and then our vocalist has a pretty large setup, so we pretty much can do stuff at our leisure, which is awesome.
How do you personally prefer to record? Like, I'll just say I like trying to record live, and I say trying because depending on how difficult a piece is,
yeah,
it could take you all day to do one basic rhythm sort of track.
Yeah, it's hard to do live recordings, I think, when you're doing kind of the extreme type of stuff that we're doing, because it's a whole different animal when you have that much stuff going on at one time, and we've actually.
You guys are playing some complicated stuff on each individual instrument.
It gets that way. I mean, but I've done it like where we all pack up and we drive and we go to a studio and pay somebody to do this and do that. But everybody now, you don't have to do that. I mean, we're sitting here with a studio at your place. So I mean, you don't unless you're making millions of dollars, why would you even want to do that? I mean, it's cool.
I could say why I would want to do it.
Why?
It's just strictly band camaraderie.
Yeah, that's cool too. But I mean, it's
like if someone's going for it, I want to cheer them on.
Yeah, it's cool. I've done it both. Packed up in a little whole studio and recorded in the middle of winter with no heat, and then just cruise up to your buddy's house and do a record. It's a whole different. And you've come along that way too. I mean, everybody and their grandma can put out a record if they want to, because
it's true.
I think that's a good thing, and it's a horrible thing. I mean,
it's a double-edged sword for sure, and it makes it difficult. I'll take it a step further, and it makes it difficult to weed through the good from the crap.
Yeah,
and because I was just talking with somebody today about that. They're like, when we were growing up, we had different outlets for finding music.
Yes.
Besides the internet.
And
it was mainstream.
I remember tape trading and
and you can still do that now, but it just seems like because let's face it, man. Let's just we're getting older. We're not 17 anymore.
Thanks, man.
Well, yeah, I mean, no, we still rock, but I mean, we're not 17-year-old kids anymore. like you alluded to earlier, we have families and jobs and responsibilities.
Yeah.
We got to pay bills. I don't like the idea that I feel like I have to have a secret passcode to get into this door where there's suddenly, this room full of good music. It's not even though there's YouTube and this, that, and the other, because anyone and their brother can make a video and make a record, you have to wade through a bunch of stuff to get through something you might enjoy. And I'm not even going to say good or bad because that's subjective.
Right.
But something that I might personally find enjoyable. Whereas before, I liked alternative music growing up. MTV had 120 minutes. Alternative Nation.
Right.
And it played music.
Yeah, stuff that you would never hear. Well, it's the same way with me growing up with the Headbangers Ball.
I was going to say.
I mean, there was things catered to certain people, but they don't filter that stuff. You go to YouTube and you're liable to see Lamb of God stuck next to a Bieber, and it's just like, how do you sort through all this mess? But
I guess you could type in metal... brutal metal.
You could, but then some people are smart asses and they'll tag.
They'll rickroll you.
Yeah,
or whatever. Never give you up.
That's Rick Astley, isn't it?
Yeah, they call it rickrolling.
Rickrolling?
Rickrolling.
That's
an old term, actually.
I'm old. I've never heard it.
See, there you go. So in a way, back then, all you got was that. And that was good and bad.
Yeah. Because
at least you knew what was current, you knew what was out there, and you knew what was on the table and being offered. Now it's like, there's got to be more than this. And I even find myself, man, what do I look for now? Because I'm always trying to look for what I consider to be good to my ear.
Yeah. Well, I try to, it's going to sound like not dated or whatever, but I mean, I just stick to what I like. And, like I've always been a fan of, death metal, and there's all kinds of death metal bands that when I was growing up are still doing it.
Yeah.
So I know that stuff is always there. And
man,
that stuff is
too.
good to me. I mean, from the technical aspect and the, the riffs and the chops, I mean, I can always get my fix there. And then a lot of the bands too, a lot of the big pop bands, they don't go out with opening acts, or they get up there and flash their stuff around for an hour and a half. But when you go to some of these smaller shows, you'll have 4 or 5 bands on the bill. You pay $20-$25 and you might discover your new favorite band.
That's how me and my buddies discovered the Screaming Trees back in the 90s.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they were doing this tour with and I've got a feeling anybody listening is like, Screaming Trees, who the hell is that?
Oh,
But they were on a bill with Soul Asylum and the Spin Doctors. It was the MTV Alternative Nation tour.
Yeah, that's
and they were the opening band, and my buddies wrote me. I was stationed at Fort Lee. And they're like, man, this band, they were amazing. Because these two 400-pound guys on both sides of the stage, and a real scrawny guy was the singer, and it was amazing. They were good, blah, blah, blah. But anyway. So as far as Cycle of Ruin, how would you describe it?
Music?
Yeah.
It's like we're just a huge melting pot. I mean, we're all like-minded as far as musicians goes. I mean, as far as really trying to push the envelope of what we do, we're not 3-chord rock songs or or a 1,000,000-chord Dream Theater songs. But I mean, we all grew up listening to the same stuff. We all love everything from Metallica, which is just kind of your basic stock reference to what people say. And we don't sound anything like Metallica, but we love Slayer, Cannibal Corpse, Dream Theater, all these different extremes. Like Cannibal Corpse, for anybody that know them, they're extreme in one way, and Dream Theater are extreme in another way. And then you've got Brant, who loves the over-the-top theatric King Diamond, who's extreme in a whole other way. So I mean, we just try to put everything that we like into these songs and not try to sound like anybody else. And I don't think we really do. And it's hard to tell people, what do you sound like? Because there are a million Breaking Benjamin bands out. There's just a million of these cookie cutter bands around here, and that even went the same.
Do you think there's? Do you think they're around this area?
Yes, I was about to say there's a lot of local bands that and something I've noticed about the local scene. The guys in Cycle have been playing together. I've been playing with our bass player since he was like 15 years old. So I mean, I've known him, and we've really been playing together for the better part of 12 to 13 years. So I mean, there's stuff that comes with that you can't get. That chemistry. And then I've known Brant forever, our vocalist, and our drummer played with a band for a long time called Killer Operating System, and they were one of those another that were really. There's a lot of bands doing it now in this area, but they were doing it 12, 13 years ago. So I consider them one of the the people that ushered in that style in this area. But we all got together and just stuck together. And so there's something I think special that comes out of that you really have time to figure out what you want to sound like, what you want to do. And I've seen a lot of these bands where I might go see a fest or something, and these guys are playing quote unquote musical instruments to where there's 3 different bands and there's 2 guys playing in every single band, and I really don't think that gives you a chance to. It doesn't give you a chance to really develop yourself or that band, because you end up taking what you're doing exactly here and taking it to another band. Well, now guess what? That band sounds like this band, and then there's a whole lot of.
I don't see how you can be loyal to one band or the other. I mean, don't get me wrong. I can see being in 2 bands that didn't sound anything alike.
Yeah.
But if you're in 2 bands that sound very similar, to me, it's almost like one is your other woman.
Yeah.
Like I would feel cheated on.
Well, it's just, and I understand people that need to be creative, but I think some of these people, and I hate to use the word because I mean, you and I we're older, but I mean a lot of these kids that we do shows with, or that we know they jump back and forth just for and I understand that desire to play and perform and be creative, but they're like, oh, such and such needs somebody, I'm gonna go jump in with them, and then I'm gonna go jump in with these guys, and then I'm gonna go do this, and I think it kind of takes away from not necessarily having to pay dues with a band, because if you're with that band for a long time, you're going to kind of figure out what you want to do. But I could never bring myself to really jump ship, so to speak, and like go play with this band, because if you don't have anything different to offer than what you're already doing, I mean, to me it's like, I'm going to take exactly what I'm doing here and do it in this band. I mean, I might as well focus all that into making this band the best it can be, and devoting my loyalties to these guys, and really building something, instead of just, I've got to play with these guys this weekend and these guys next weekend, and I'm playing with both bands next weekend, and it's like, I think you stretch yourself a little bit thin, and you really take
almost
away
like you're
from
playing for the sake of getting a paycheck.
Yeah, but most of us don't get paid.
But we don't get paid. Yeah.
But yeah,
I think most of it is just a lot of guys do like to, like you said, you like to play. And you're trying to get out and play. But at the same time, I think it also may have to do, like when I think of musicians that do that, I immediately think of drummers.
Hey, easy now.
No. I'm about to pay you guys a compliment. You guys that actually get the call and ask to sit in, you get asked because, one, you're accessible and there's honestly not a lot of drummers to
right.
But two, you guys are all established and good. You know what I mean? And that's not a slam.
Yeah, and I mean, I like that too. And being, I've been playing. I think I was talking to Alan Gallimore, who's another local staple. We'll use the word staple because the guy's, just been around forever. And up at Hayes Music Store, the big red monster drum kit that's upstairs that belonged to several different people in this area was actually the first drum kit I ever played out on live as a drummer. It came from getting a call, hey, we need a drummer, we need a fill-in, and I was like 22, snot-nosed, never played in front of hardly anybody, and have to get up and just kind of play, and that's, and then that happens, and you get gigs and get playing. But that's one thing I've always loved about this area is, like you said, everybody knows everybody, and everybody's played with everybody, and you kind of get a reputation for that, and so it is cool getting calls to fill in or whatever, because I kind of look at playing out, like when we play in a bar or do whatever. To me, it's a totally different animal than actually spending time writing, recording, and and babying this thing. And which we've done that with CYnderblok. Put out a couple of records and write original material, but sometimes that kind of gets pushed aside for the sake of having to play for 4 hours.
Yeah.
And so, I think it's good to stay very true to what you want to do. And I know that sounds cliche, but I think you can find a happy medium with it. I mean, I've always done kind of both sides of the coin, and they never really interfere with the other or intermingle like that. I mean, one's a totally different animal for me.
Sorry, I'm having to do some arranging.
Technical difficulties.
Yeah, there we go.
That's all good, but
so my question now would be, if you had to pick one instrument to say that you are a player of that, which one would it be?
You have to define player.
Okay. If someone said you have to define yourself as one,
because you know how anal I am about music and
sure,
and instruments and theory and stuff. So it's hard, and I would say, oh man, I would say guitar. Just because to me that instrument, I'm not going to say interests me more, because I play drums all the time, and I do like the...
Which one do you practice more?
Guitar. Because my drum kit, my live kit stays in storage for when we travel. So I don't have a kit at my house, but I have, tons of guitars on the wall and amps, and that's really...
Do you have a guitar in every room?
No, I do have a half stack in my bedroom, and one in my one in my living room too. Yeah, but it's what I played first, and I know everybody's got their story about picking up their brother's guitar when they were this age and doing that. But that's really what happened. I mean, my brother got a guitar for Christmas, and he thought it was stupid, and I picked it up and learned how to play War Machine by Kiss, and I was hooked. So and then I got suckered into bass. When I was probably about 15 or 16 by some seniors in high school, because I had a cool Metallica shirt on. I'd never played bass before in my life. I gave it a shot. Same stuff. We'd go on break. I'd play the guitar player's guitar and the drummer's drums. And it's just, to me, it's natural. But as far as picking one, I'd have to say that, and Chad Montague, who's guitar player for CYnderblok, and Roger Mattingly, who was on a couple of weeks ago, we kind of joke around and say that I'm a guitar player forced to do a drummer's job. But I do love the drums, and I do try to learn and excel. And to me, it's just this whole gung ho. I'm gonna do it the best I can do it type deal. So
Yeah.
but yeah, guitar is my main love right now.
I would say the one thing that you may not be quote unquote known for, but do, and I think do pretty daggum well, is sing.
Sing?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't like to as much. I did used to front it was a very early metal, that kind of new metal back when Slipknot was big and all these new metal bands were coming out. I kind of threw myself into that coming out of a death metal band, and that's where I actually first got acquainted with Aaron Chase, who plays bass for Cycle of Ruin. He's like a ghost in the music community around here because nobody knows who he is. He doesn't play in clubs or bars and doesn't really get out and frequent a lot of stuff just because he's a real low-key guy. But I mean, I remember watching this kid when he was like 15, 16 years old, and he was just starting out, and I was like, man, this kid, is got it as far as, really being able to play. And now, I mean, the stuff that we do now gets so crazy, and he's very underrated. I mean, he's unknown. He's a beast as far as that goes. I mean, from his stage presence to his riffs to, I mean, I can write anything I want on guitar and he can play it. So it's like, we really don't have any limits when we're writing together, because if I want to do some crazy run or fill or sweep, and he's just like, oh, okay, I got that. So he's, I definitely suggest, and I don't have a lot of information on how anybody can, you can see him here or play this or that. All I know to tell you to do is to come to a cycle show or check us out on YouTube or any of our online stuff, because, I mean, the guy really is awesome. And we started that band with him and a guy named Stacy Wade, who Stacy was an amazing drummer. He's got several drummers in his family. Started that band as a three-piece, and we played this new kind of heavy metalcore, some death metal thrown in there, and we did pretty well. And that was back, you guys played with us actually, like the Billy Graham and a Half trio or something. Yeah,
oh,
back
God,
in the day.
That was a long time
That
ago.
was like 2001 maybe. And Stacy actually went on to play in a couple of bands, and he joined Fallen Within and actually toured with them and played with them a little bit, and then he just kind of dropped off the map and moved off. But yeah, me and Aaron are still really hardcore at it as far as all that stuff goes. But
What's your favorite gig with those guys so far?
A favorite show that I've done with them?
Yeah.
Every show is really awesome just because I'm such a fan of not necessarily, I mean, I'm a fan of what we do, of course, but I'm a fan of all these other guys as players, because our drummer, I've known him and seen him with other bands and thought, wow. And then Brant, who doesn't know Brant, and go, wow, and Aaron. But every gig, I love every gig. We've never had a horrible one, but we got to play Fubar, which is, a legendary national thing in St. Louis where all these bands come through. We got to do that early this year, and then we do a lot of smaller fest here and there, and it's just it's weird for what we do because we're not super marketable. I mean, we don't fit in with people who are like, we're going to throw this bill together, let's bring these guys in so that we can sandwich them in between, Powder Mill and somebody else or something. It's just it's weird, and we're cool with that. I mean,
Powder Mill Cycle of Ruin show. That would be
yeah,
different.
Yeah, we're just not. We don't fit in, and it's a blessing and it's a curse. I mean, it's
It's cool to have your own thing, but at the end of the day, you're kind of like, man, I'd like to maybe showcase this.
Yeah, I wish somebody would
band
call
some more.
I wish somebody would call instead of ditching our calls, but
yeah. So whenever you're sitting down, you're and here's something like me as a guitarist. I love to woodshed. I actually like to sit down and woodshed. My thing is, I don't know what I want to work on sometimes. Maybe I want to try a flamenco thing. Maybe I want to do... What do you do when you woodshed?
Well, I hate this because as much as I play, and as long as I've been playing, and as much as people, label me as Cory's, but whatever. But I'm really pigeonholed into just kind of being the shred guy, and it's cool, but like I've watched you play, and I'm like, that's awesome. I can't do that, And then you've got the blues guy. I don't do anything, and I guess it's kind of held me back a little bit, but at the same time, it's helped me in what I want to do, which is play, heavy extreme music with all the crazy stuff that I can put in it. But when I do woodshed, and I guess when I do, I just try to, because I do love melodies, and I do love, cool progressions and chords, and I do write a lot of clean, I don't know if you would call them ballady type things, but, kind of atmospheric-y. Mm-hmm. Is that a word? Atmospheric-y?
Sure. Bro, we live in Southeast Missouri. We say yuns.
Write that down. But, no, when I sit down with my guitar, I always try to come up with something, but, I'm really big into like scale stuff and warm-ups and just trying to keep chops to where they are. I mean, I don't necessarily worry about sitting down and writing a song until, because I think it's different when you play some of the crazy stuff that we play. It's not like I'll watch a news story and get sad and write a song about it or anything like that, because to me, not being the vocalist and not being the front man, I don't write lyrics. So naturally, I don't sit down and write what people would call a song on paper, but I will sit down and try to write guitar parts. And
yeah, that's another thing I was going to ask you. Do you actually write guitar parts, or do you go in and improvise?
No, I don't. That's improvising is totally the left field for me, because I'm such a stickler, and I want to, I make sure everything, you have your chords, like when people are playing, G, C, and D, that goes together, or all these little progressions, and it's kind of the same with what we do, because we try to write technical stuff, but I like to keep it musical. So if I'm writing a part that's not necessarily power chords like you'd hear, some of these thrash metal bands do or whatever, but if we're doing runs and scale-based stuff, I mean, I like to keep it where it makes sense. I want to go from one scale, if I'm doing something, which we do a lot of, into some other part. I want to make sure that it fits musically, because certain scales flow into other scales and things like that. So it's songwriting for me is a lot different, because I only write guitar parts. I don't worry about lyrics. That's Brant's deal and all that, and that's cool. He's great at it, and he's amazing at it. But the musical part comes from me just from.
So before the red light comes on, before they hit record, you already know what you're going to play?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, that's just, and I don't think I could do that any other way. Now, even when it comes to leads, I like to have all that worked out, because, when you're dealing with all these notes, they all got to go together. I mean, I don't do a lot of conventional blues-based stuff or anything like that, so I really got to try to map stuff out, and I really, pull my hair out with it.
Do you actually sit down with pen and paper and do it?
I have.
Really?
I've written things, and I'm not comparing myself to Vi by any means.
No.
But he writes.
Compare away. I mean,
but I'm just saying. Just because
he's famous doesn't mean there's not things.
But I heard something that he did, and I thought that it was amazing. He will actually notate things out before he ever touches a guitar, and then he'll play it. So he notates it out, and I've done that before. If I'm at work or if I'm driving and I don't have a guitar handy, I will think about.
I know a guy who did an entire symphony that way.
Really?
In a coffee shop. And then recorded it all on a keyboard. This was up in Calgary. I forget his name.
Now, see, that stuff is.
He played with my buddy Jim Baxter.
That's awesome.
He played bass.
That's the way.
Gene, and I can't remember what his last name was. He dated this.
That's the way I love to do things, because that keeps me on top of me knowing what goes with what. And I'm not a jazz guy by any means, and I know there's all this freeform open jazz or whatever, but I really like the discipline of having to know exactly what's fixing to happen. There's a lot of, we were listening to somebody the other night, I think it was Santana, and he always sounds like he has no idea what he's fixing to do. To me, listening to that.
Yeah.
He always sounds like, it's on the fly, which is cool, But that's not my style. I cannot do that. I mean, but at the same time, that's a lot of the way how some of this stuff comes up. If I'm just sitting around and running through scales and running through things, and I'll find some stuff that goes together, and then I build off it on that. So it's almost a little of both sometimes. Because if I hear something that catches my ear, whether it's riffs or scales or stuff like that, yeah, it does build from that. But for me, and the rest of the band's that way too. I mean, our bass player's he doesn't just ride roots. I mean, this guy, will rip stuff under what I'm doing, and we'll have to stop and be like, well, does that go with this, right? Because, a lot of people, when they do bass, they just do their fifths and their little roots and stuff, and he, really tries to throw different things in there and make it awesome. And he's good at it. I mean, he's a blast to watch play.
That's so cool, man. That's really, really cool.
Same way with the drums. James's numbers, I mean, we have charts. We write in charts sometimes, which, a lot of, we're not super progressive, but we do try to bring a little bit of that element in because we all like it. We try to bring death metal stuff in it. We try to bring progressive. We try to bring, which in the end, when you turn it on, to me, it's all metal. And I mean, I hate to use labels, but sometimes that's the only way you can get your point across.
If someone asks what your band sounds like.
Yeah. I don't want to be like,
I never can describe to anybody what I sound like.
We're new post-hardcore death thrash melodic tech metal. Stuff like that. It's just, it gets too much. I mean, at the end of the day, I just want to be like, man, those guys are heavy.
They were just good. They were good. Yeah, and heavy.
Yeah. That's
so switching gears now over to playing drums in CYnderblok, which is, when I think of CYnderblok, I think of kind of like 80s metal.
Yeah.
80s metal mixed with some like power ballad type
definitely
stuff.
We're lucky to be able to do that stuff, but it's cool.
Yeah. Well, shoot, as long as there's a Midwest, there's always going to be a desire to hear that stuff. I'm convinced of it. But have you done much recording with them yet?
I actually did. We started that band. I know you got the whole gist of it with Roger, but I mean, we started a long time ago, and actually I was the original bass player, and Jamie, Hickson, was the original drummer.
I remember very well.
And we did a few gigs, no recordings, and then stuff got flip-flopped around, and I went to drums, and we actually recorded the first album, and it was, as much as we like the 80s metal, there wasn't a whole lot on that album that screamed Dokken to me. Or anything like it, or Motley Crue. I mean, that's, and I think that really a testament to, even though that's what you like, that's not necessarily what you have to do, because, hearing those riffs, and Chad writes some killer riffs. I mean, it's his style. You can't say, we might say stuff that sounds, if it's got a certain chord or some sort of augmented something, that's very George Lynch or Dokken, but at the end of the day, it's still, it's still very original and stuff like that. But yeah, I recorded the first record with them, and then I can't remember when it was. I left for a few years and went and did some other stuff musically and personally, and then kind of came back to the fold, and they had recorded a second album with Doug Anderson, who I love. Doug's an awesome dude.
Yeah, he's a great fella.
He's killer. I mean, solid drummer.
We had a musicians' night out one night. It was me, him, and my head is so foggy.
I know that guy.
Greg Pearson.
Oh yeah.
And
I bet that was a recipe for fun.
You know what? We ended up going over to the Walker Brothers studio, or Brothers Walkers, what they call themselves now, over in Malden, and I ended up jamming with those guys.
Yeah.
They got a neat little setup there.
I like Clint and Cody. They're cool. They actually did an alternative mix to the first Cycle of Ruin EP that came out, because Brant's real good friends with them, and they offered to do a mix just to kind of, when we were debating on where we wanted to mix and all that. They did a cool little job on a few tracks for us. But yeah, Doug came in and did drum duties for a while, and Doug is, man, like I said, I love Doug. He has so much fun. I've never seen the guy mad. He's just, it's like, I want to be Doug. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
I get up there and get aggravated at this or aggravated at that, man. And Doug's just like, shit-eating grin.
Let's just play.
Yeah, let's just play, and I like Doug. I wish I got to hang out with him more. And our bands have done shows together. Damnation Alley headlined one stage on Music on Main, CYnderblok headlined the other, so it was like an afternoon of these 80s guys going back and forth. It was a lot of fun, man. I love Doug, and the rest of those guys are amazing.
I've got to get Doug on this show.
Yeah.
That
would be awesome.
Several people have said they'll be on the show. And he's one of them that I contacted, and I haven't heard back from yet.
Doug, if you're listening,
get your ass over.
Right.
Podcast. One of the things me and Roger touched on too was how cool it is that the local music community, everyone does know each other, and we're all pretty tight.
Yeah.
If we weren't, I wouldn't be able to do this podcast. I really don't think I would.
There's always, and I know it's just the nature of the beast whenever you're doing something and you want to be good at it and you make a living at it. I mean, there's always a little bit of, I'm not going to say, not competition, because competition is such a wrong word, because it's not like we're getting freaking gold medals at the end of the day or something.
But I know what you're saying.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying.
There's
like
friendly rivalry.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's a very good word for it, rivalry. But it's not enough to cause it where I'm not going to hang out with Jerry Foster.
Yeah.
Or something, and some people have taken it to that level, I'm sure. But man, to me, it's just like.
Well, yeah, I'm hated by many.
Well, I hate you. I'm just letting you know. I'm just letting you know that right now. I'm only here for the exposure.
I'm hated by so many. I'm a black sheep of the music community. Right. Nobody likes me.
That's because you play guitar all crazy and shit, man. I can't stand to watch you play. It makes me nauseous.
I'm sorry. You stand on your head and look in the mirror, man.
Right.
Upside down and backwards. The thing I like about, I'll just give you a fan's perspective of both bands.
Yeah.
Since we devoted the first half on Cycle of Ruin, I love to hear Brant do his screams. Obviously, I love to hear you play guitar.
Yeah.
And I love to hear the bass and drums. But what I like is just the overall sound. You all are really good, and it seems like it's a band that is the sum of its own parts. Like, everyone stands out, yet everyone's...
Right. And it comes from everybody being so like-minded, because I think Aaron gets more... He tends to focus on numbers a lot, and I know it sounds boring and it sounds like it sucks all the fun out of music, but it's part of being a fan of
rhythm. Some
of the bands like Dream Theater, and some of these bands that really work all these different rhythms and stuff in and all that, and it's cool when you have 3 or 4 guys that are really like-minded. You'd think it would be boring, but I mean at the same time it's fun, but you almost feel like you've accomplished something, you've achieved something, and I get a little bit more out of it. I love playing with CYnderblok. I love it because it's almost like a release from being in that box. We can go out and do all these songs, and I can play drums, and we can have, not that I don't have fun with Cycle. I mean, it's an absolute blast, but it's a different kind of fun. It's it's like 2 sides of this personality that I have. I have this really completely logical anal side about how everything's got to click and lock, and for that type of music it has to. And we get to go out and just have a blast and play all the songs we grew up with for 4 hours and put our own spin on them, because Chad is a awesome guitar. I mean, Chad is an amazing guitar player, and to watch him to do some of these old classic songs, and he just will start ripping and shredding and sweeping, and I'm laughing, and I mean, it's because you don't hear that shit.
Well, that was the other thing I was going to say.
Great.
Then on the flip side of Cycle of Ruin is CYnderblok.
Yeah.
Where you've got...
Both start with CY, which is weird.
Yeah. You can blame Jamie for the spelling of CYnderblok.
Thanks, Jamie.
But one of the things with CYnderblok is it's an animated band.
Oh yeah.
If Chris is playing bass, he's jumping around, he's in your face, with the bass. Roger's doing the point, and he's he's doing his thing.
Yeah.
And really, Chad's probably the most docile looking as far as he's a hulking figure. He's a big dude.
Chad's pretty docile until about the 3rd or 4th set when we've had some drinks, and then he likes to get into it.
And then you're back there beating on the skins. It's a band that looks like, I'm not going to say you're not paying attention to me. You're paying attention to the music.
Yeah.
And you're playing as good as you can.
Yeah.
But you're making sure that there's some fun involved and a lot of crowd interaction.
Yeah. It's a good
Roger being a frontman and not having to play an instrument kind of gets to do that and the gigs you guys play versus, say, the Cyclone
Yeah.
gigs. And they're both very enjoyable bands to watch.
Yeah.
I like watching both bands.
Roger's an amazing front man.
He's great,
He's
man.
great. He's definitely, I mean, to say he's legend around here is, I mean, it's true. I mean, the guy can do things that, 99% of other frontmen can't do, and that's, just a test of how, he is good. I mean, he's very, very good. I mean, who can, we'll do, a Luke Bryan song and turn around and do like Maiden or Skid Row, which, and that's part of the fun for me because it's, doing everything and getting out of that box, which is cool to do sometimes,
I'm still waiting for you guys to do an EOB song.
We talked about that. We talked about getting.
You did not.
Yeah, no, we did. We talked about getting sending a message out to some of these other local bands and let's cover each other's songs, because that would be awesome.
I've wanted to do that.
That'd be killer.
In fact, I think I've talked to Alan Gallimore about that. It's like, because I love the song "Cigarette Kiss" by Damnation Alley.
Alan is he's
love
an
that
awesome
song.
songwriter, dude. He writes such cool songs, man.
But the thing is, that song sounds like something I would have written, and I don't play the kind of music he writes. It's just the first time I ever heard it was when he was playing, I want to say, with Cradle.
Probably.
And
which was a long
time ago. And I was like, wow, that's really melodic. I try to write melodic songs.
Yeah.
It's no secret. My hero's Paul McCartney. I like melodies. I love melodies. They just do something to my soul that shredding guitar probably does for you.
Yeah.
I just love a good melody. And that song is
just
so melodic compared to the, hot rods and whores, tear down the door.
Heavy metal vomit. I mean, but it's just, like I said, I love Alan as a songwriter because, some people can't, and it goes with all this different kind of music. I can't write a 3-chord rock anthem song. I can't do it, and Alan's so fucking good at that. I mean, he's good. I love it. I wear Damnation Alley stuff all the time. I go to their shows.
Yeah.
I love them. I mean, I'm a huge fan just because it's something to get into. Like I said, I could never write Heavy Metal Vomit Party. As much as I love the song, I couldn't do it. And it's just, I think local music in Poplar Bluff is, I've seen it go up and I've seen it go down, and, I've seen it go up and I've seen it go down, and that's from everywhere, because back in the early 2000s, when this sort of underground metal thing started, there was a handful of us, punk kids in our mid-20s that were getting together in basements with, 50 to 100 people and just going,
Showboat?
yeah, oh yeah, bands like that, I mean, just getting together and doing all that, and then that kind of died out, and about that time that died out is when Z95 really started pushing the local stuff, and it gave everybody else a chance to get back up again, and
they're still doing it.
Yeah,
Isn't
those
that
guys
cool?
are killer, yeah.
Man, I mean, like, really, hats off to Randy and Chris.
I love Randy. I gave Randy his Cycle of Ruin shirt the other day. He better be wearing it. I love the fact that they'll do that. I think,
and that's another thing you'll catch too is other bands around here wearing each other's stuff.
Yeah.
Like EOB's shirt was the psychedelic woman.
Yeah.
And it wasn't black, and it stuck out like a sore thumb. But
what's wrong with black shirts?
Not a thing. It's just that it stuck out so bad, right? This little psychedelic rainbow woman with the EOB.
Right.
And I just saw someone wearing one the other day, and it cracked me up. I had a chuckle.
Yeah.
But, like, I remember when we played Bone Stock, I wore a Disgruntled Bastard shirt. Jamie wore a Damnation Alley shirt, and Ken wore a CYnderblok shirt.
Really?
Yeah.
That's cool.
And it was our little way of saying, why aren't these guys playing this year?
Well, yeah.
Because this is the first time we got to play, and we wanted to play with our buddies.
But
they had to do it, and I'm not mad at it.
I can't imagine the logistical nightmare or something like
Good
that.
God, me either,
I've talked
man.
to Randy a little bit, and you know what, man? They pour their heart into it every year, and the music on Main thing was a blast. You guys did it, I mean, it's awesome. It was a whole different. The atmosphere was different. It was
I
cool.
hope we do it again this year.
Yeah.
If I do it, it'll be either me as a solo thing or with a new band. I mean, EOB's basically, for all intents and purposes, no longer. We'll probably play Wopstock Fast.
Yeah.
That's the one gig a year that's my favorite gig. I was talking about that with Roger when he was here. I love it because you just play whatever you want.
Yeah.
and we would pull some crap out of our ass, man.
That's one of the things, ELB, I've seen you guys. It's like every time I see you, it's almost a different band when I would see you. And that's not, I'm not saying bad, but it was just like the music would be so different, and I could never, the original stuff, which I've been listening to stuff that you have been writing before, like with ELB, and so we did shows together back in the early 2000s.
Yeah.
But it's like you are in this area. You're definitely, I'm going to say, the most different. That's not a bad thing.
No,
Because,
my music sticks out.
Yeah, it's definitely.
I know this.
I get this whole 60s retro, 70s retro thing, which I love because, like I said, that's one of the things I cannot do. So that's I like bands that do stuff that.
I was trying to describe someone the other day. They asked me, "What do you like?" They just asked me what I like, and I said,
"That's whole different. That's
psychedelic, bluesy stuff," and it kind of comes out in the music.
I love it, but then
again,
also,
you can some of my punk roots come out in music too.
Yeah.
I think anyway, but I just tend to put guitar leads in.
It's like pop punk kind of
sometimes,
stuff, And when people ask you what you like, it's a whole different animal than ask you what does your band sound like.
Yeah.
Because some of the stuff that I like, these other guys may not like, and some of the stuff that they like, I may not like. But it's because I love Kiss, but we don't sound like Kiss.
Right.
And I love Smashing Pumpkins, but it's just got to do with that's a whole different. And I wish when people ask you what you like, it's almost like they're expecting your band to sound like that. And I don't think it's very rarely going to be the case unless you've got 4 guys who are just so hell bent on.
Let's sound like Kiss.
Let's sound exactly like Kiss, let's. But I'm lucky to play with the people that I play with. It's awesome. The guys in Cycle, we're well known, but we're underground, and it's kind of like, oh yeah, I know you guys. I've never seen you play. And I'm like, well, we do shows all the time, but we don't maybe not get as much push. And that's cool. We've always been...
and a band not getting any push, that's a shame.
Well, yeah, but it kind of makes us work a little bit harder because at the same time, a band like this is not going to do it for the gig. I'm not busting my ass in Cycle so I can play Blue Moon, which is cool. But at the same time, it would be cool to do that. But it's just it's a whole different thing when you're in a band like that in this area. Mostly,
you missed my innuendo joke, right?
Uh-oh.
A band getting push. Never mind.
What are you talking about?
No,
push.
I had no idea.
Okay, yeah, I didn't hear that either. But yeah, I got it. But we have got some.
You're the most serious person to have done the podcast so far. I'm shocked. The way you and I banter back and forth, I'm shocked.
Well, yeah, there's been no crazy out of control moments. That'll happen when we hit stop. I'm sure.
I'm shocked.
That's
not disappointed, just kind of surprised.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you and I take music so serious.
True. That's very
true. We take music so serious. I can't imagine what life. I've actually met people in my line of work, cutting hair, who said, "Oh, I don't really listen to music." I'm like, "What the hell's wrong with you?"
That's like saying, "Oh, I really don't like to eat," or something.
Yeah.
It's crazy. But then again,
music's up there with like getting some good push.
I got you, push. Didn't ZZ Top write a song about that? No,
they were just looking for a push.
Yeah,
they got it.
I got it.
Boy, talk about a loud little group.
ZZ Top.
Have you ever noticed I've always been in 3 pieces?
Maybe you got a thing with the letter 3. See, I'm
3
opposite.
is the magic number.
I'm opposite. I don't like things that come in 3. I won't eat Ho-Hos because they come in packs of 3s. I won't eat Reese's peanut butter cups in the 3 packs. I don't do it, and I don't like ELB that much either.
Well,
or Rush, or Triumph, or I'm just kidding. But the thing about
you like what you like, and you don't like what you don't like.
It was a joke, man. I love ELB.
It doesn't hurt my feelings.
I love ELB.
You know what? You can love the members and not like the music.
That is true. That's very true.
Like, I don't sit around listening to ELB.
Why not?
I don't know.
I
guess I was there. I wrote it.
That's kind of the way. That's kind of the way I feel about it. I don't have a single. I don't think there's a single. Yeah, I know. I don't think there's a single Cycle of Ruin recording in my house. There's some live DVD stuff, But as far as like, yeah, I'm gonna pop my own band in my stereo and crank it up, I was like, nah, dude, I mean, it's cool. Like when you first get that CD in or get that record, of course you're gonna pop it in and critique it and listen to it.
If I do anything, I'm critiquing my music. Yeah.
And then by the time when you're done critiquing, I want to throw it out the window and start all over. But yeah, I mean, I'm not I don't know. I don't listen, and the bad thing about it is I don't listen to a whole lot of music.
Mm-hmm.
Not, I'm more apt to sit and watch a cool concert DVD or watch a few YouTube videos.
I do a lot of my thing here. This past probably 6 months, I have been obsessed with guitar tone.
Like new tone or finding out how to squeeze more tone, like
just guitar tones, whether it be hearing an amazing jazz tone, like say George Benson. Man, I love to hear his guitar. Whether it be something funky like John Frusciante, what he's done with the Chili Peppers. Is he a complicated technical guy? Not at all, but there's something about the dude's playing. It's like it just works for me.
Yeah,
I like it. Doug Aldrich, my favorite shredder of all times. I love his shred tone.
Yeah.
Michael Schenker, same way. My favorite shredders right there. Those are two of my favorites anyway.
Yeah. I
like the Jason Becker, Paul Gilbert guys. But the thing I like about Doug Aldrich, like whenever he's with, say, Whitesnake, they're like, all right, we're going to showcase our guitarist. He's going to do his lead melodic in his shredding. A lot of times he'll even have the keyboard kick in at some part of his solo.
Yeah.
And
I watched a Vai solo, Steve Vai, with Whitesnake from Donington, and it was. I mean, everybody knows me. I'm a Vai fan, but I posted, on one of my Facebook pages recently something regarding tone because as a guitar player and as somebody who's kind of known for playing guitar or however you want to say it, I mean, I try to keep up with a lot of like gear and what people are doing and all this. And then when we do shows with a lot of these younger guys, and when I say younger, I mean they haven't been playing that long, or if they have been playing that long, they're just kind of stuck in a rut and they play this drop D stuff, on the first, second, third fret, but they want to talk about tone. And I posted this big piece about your hands.
Yeah, I read that.
Okay, to me,
I may have even said something on it.
Since we're talking about tone, I mean, to me, your 99% of your tone is in your hands and your guitar, and I just like to be so in touch with it and know where all these notes are. And an E here sounds different than an E here, and it's little things like that.
Would you believe I'm even more picky about note placement on a bass?
Yes, absolutely. I
because I'll tell you right now, anything beyond the 9th fret on the E and A strings.
That's your 7th fret, buddy.
Where am I at? I'm telling you, I am medicine head. Nobody could see that. You're
trying to play me. I'm sorry. No, man.
No, but anyway, yeah, 9th fret.
Right.
Those are the sweet spots. I love those sounds. Yeah. But it goes back to I like 60s music. They played really high on the neck. McCartney especially was really known for that. And I really, really, really like the sounds of bass played up higher on the neck.
I played bass with CYnderblok. They used to joke around with me and say I played lead bass.
Yeah.
Because I did so much scale work and chordings, and I don't know if that came from being a guitar player playing bass or just somebody who likes to squeeze everything I can get out of it. Because when if you're playing bass and your guitar player takes a solo, you have a little bit more room to just hit some roots and, do stuff like that. So I learned how to do, these add 9 chords and these things like that and these scale runs or whatever, and it was cool. I mean, when me and Chad would do Detroit Rock City, I'd harmonize the guitar solo on bass with him just because stuff like that
makes
cool.
it fuller. Yeah, I think that stuff's real cool.
It's a lot of fun. I mean,
have you ever seen guys that have a guitar amp and a bass amp, and then they'll A/B box it to go to a guitar amp for a overdrive sound
for their bass?
Yeah,
I've never seen that. I've seen people just run like little overdrive pedals or whatever. But yeah, the state of music. We got to talking about the technology and the and the kids and stuff like that is awesome, and a lot of people have, I think, a misconception about what's going on with music because you hear the music industry's dead, and all that stuff, and I tend to agree with that a lot. But the people that are still doing it, I don't think they don't give a shit about the industry, and and people are complain about there's no more good music, and there is a lot of good music. It's just that's not what's being shoved down your throat by radio and TV and all that. Because I mean,
you've got to have that secret passcode to get in that door.
If you know where to look, yeah, absolutely. There's music everywhere, and once again, the musicianship, everybody says it sucks and the songwriting sucks, but that goes to where you have to know where to look. Now, when I was growing up playing guitar, back in my day, whatever, but you know how it was. You had these top tier players, just a few guys that were like the pinnacle of these players, and that was like everybody aspired, whether it was Randy Rhoads or even a little bit later the Jason Beckers and Marty Friedmans and all those guys.
I always think of Eddie Van Halen.
Yeah, but
when we were little kids,
yeah,
Eddie Van Halen and Randy Rhoads. Yeah.
Now there's so many of those kids that can do that, and when I say kids, I mean kids. Like
you see it on YouTube every day.
I network with a lot.
5-year-old plays Eruption
with a lot of these guys, on these guitar groups or these music groups that are just phenomenal, and then a lot of them don't have a band. They're just like, I sit and shred YouTube videos all day, and that another thing is that's horrible for the music business right now is Facebook. I love Facebook. I love to connect with people on Facebook. I mean, I love to connect with other bands, and one of my older sons is actually just now getting to where he's getting into guitar and wanting to have aspirations of a band, and which is about the right age, 16, 17, people this, but in this day and age, two guys will want to start a band. Well, the first thing they do is they make a Facebook page. They push their Facebook page. They try to get 1,000 likes on Facebook, and then they're like, oh, we don't have a bass player yet, and we haven't played any gigs, and we haven't written any songs. And I'm like, you're going about it backwards.
Yeah, you don't have a band. You have an idea for a band.
It's a false popularity, and it's instant gratification because people are talking about your band. And I know it's just this whole circle of the way it is, but I mean, you remember what it was like to get out and network and not have.
You know what website I liked for networking?
What?
MySpace.
Still? Do they make that?
Not now. Back in the day. No, I don't know.
I didn't do.
Back in the day, I met more people that I've stayed in contact with.
Yeah, I never did that. And
it was great.
And I never got a Facebook page until probably 3 years ago, just because I was busy playing music. I was too busy playing music.
I was living in Canada whenever MySpace got big. Yeah. So I was gigging a lot up there doing the country thing, and I got really immersed in writing country songs. Wow. There are still some people on Facebook today, like a couple guys I know out in Arizona, a guy named Elmo Kirkwood and a guy named Brian Dellinger. They still think of me as a country guy because they remember when I was writing and recording all these country songs all the time up there, and it's like,
no,
I'm not a country dude.
There's so many, like we use the term double-edged swords today. There's so many of it because I use it. Cycle of Room, we have a Facebook page. CYnderblok has a Facebook page, and I mean, you can make so many connections, but then I think people use it as a crutch to give themselves a false sense of accomplishment. And now even record labels will not sign you unless you have X amount of this on your Facebook page and this and that and that. And that's one of the main reasons that I don't even worry about the music industry. I mean, I'm sure, that if we lived in a different area with the cycle stuff, even, or maybe some of the CYnderblok stuff is, can get really, really good and catchy for radio. But, there's who's to say we wouldn't get signed. But, it's just if they want to sign you off of, how many people click like on your button as opposed to talent and live performance.
Here's my big question. Me, I love to play live. I love to play live.
I do too, live.
I mean, I love to record. I love writing songs.
I'm playing live. I'm on stage in my head right now. I'm not even here.
Yeah.
You know how it is, man.
I like creating songs. I like writing songs.
Mm-hmm. My favorite part is performing them, though.
But performing them is where it's at. Hearing it on the radio, as far as like writing and recording them, that part, that's the grand finale for that. All right, heard it on the radio. But then to play them and have people dancing to your music and having fun to something that, I wrote on that bed over there and came over here and recorded.
Yeah.
And they're enjoying that. That's
cool.
That's a really big payoff.
It's cool. It's cool. I don't know how much of experience you've had with taking stuff like a little bit out of this area, you know. But sometimes
a little bit, but
sometimes like when we have to go to St. Louis, or when it's not too far, but for a local band doing their own stuff, that that can get a little far. But and Brant has a ton of network connections. I mean, you know him. He's the network PR guru, But and just to hear and to see some of the stuff that people that I've never met, or there's a really good friends of mine in a band called Black Plague in Roanoke, Virginia, and they're awesome, great people, but they're super good about networking and supporting too. And to see them post live pictures in Virginia of them wearing your band's gear is pretty cool. I mean,
sure,
that's the cool part for me, is when people take a little bit of appreciation.
But see, that's where I've been able to use the internet for me. I've got friends that live out of state.
Yeah,
that have the OB shirts and posted pictures. Hey,
right.
I got
that's cool,
and
man.
that's neat. That's neat stuff. They're holding up their CD and their shirt.
Yeah.
No, it makes you feel good.
Yeah.
Me and other guys that have been on here, we've said it. Any musician that says they don't enjoy the attention for being musicians is a fucking liar.
They're a liar.
They're full of shit.
They're a liar.
Now, I'm not saying all of us guys got in it because we wanted to get some push, because that's not why I got in it at all. I had to make music. No, I've been making music since I was little.
Yeah.
Beating on stuff, for drums. My first instrument was drums.
Yeah.
I love to play drums. Love to play drums. But hell yeah, you want to feel validated.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous. Anyone that says they don't it's false.
The live deal is awesome for me. It's great. I love playing with CYnderblok because, like you said, I love to see people having a good time, and and in that environment, it's pretty easy to have a good time or whatever.
Yeah.
And then I love going on stage with Cycle of Ruin and Brant and them, and it's a whole different animal, because it is a totally different crowd.
And it's probably going to be music you haven't heard on the radio.
Yeah, but
whereas CYnderblok is primarily a cover band,
and there are people that have been fans for a while that know the songs and wear the merch and come to every show and stuff like that. But it's cool because, I've watched and I've learned a lot of this also from Brant, our vocalist. He's been doing it a lot longer than me, but he performs the same whether there's 20 people or we've done shows for hundreds of people. He's the same guy, and he helps me do that, because it's real easy to play in front of 20 people and get down and this sucks,
just phone in the performance.
Right, but he's never done that, and he even in practice, when we're practice, he's Brant, he's doing his thing, and I'm like, that's pretty awesome that he don't care who's around. It's 110% or whatever. So that I try to translate that over as well in a live situation, because those 10 people, they don't care about the 20 people that aren't there.
Yeah.
So it's or whatever, however you want to look at it, it's cool. I mean, it kind of puts you in perspective a little bit that I don't ever be one of those guys that's a total dick to somebody, because I've been on the other end of that. You meet you go see somebody that you think's awesome, and they just turn out to be a total douche, and I'm like, I've had that experience recently.
Yeah, because there wasn't more people.
Yeah, I've had that experience very recently, and I was like, wow.
On a national level?
Yeah,
or local?
Yeah. We were guesting backstage at a show at New Daisy a couple of months ago, and one of the members of the band was just. And I was like, oh, okay,
sorry, they're a rock star.
I just bought your dinner tonight. This is, and this is the thanks you get. But it's cool. Being a musician is a roller coaster. It's
oh god, yeah.
Yeah, to me it's like me it's it's a drug.
You ever had times where you're just like, fuck it, I don't want it, I'm done?
Nope. Not once. That's an easy question. Not once.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Me either, because I've always got I can play several instruments and write songs to fall back on.
Yeah.
That sounds cocky. I don't mean it to be cocky. What I mean to say is I've always got an outlet.
You've always got an outlet, exactly. And I feel the same way. If something happens and Cycle goes on hiatus, which we have been on hiatus for a little bit because of, just because sometimes things don't line up and, the timing's got to be right. But, I can stay busy with CYnderblok, and then we stay busy anyway. And then when I do have an opportunity to write and record and travel, then I've got that to go to, and it's when you got it, and when you have it in you, you have it.
Oh
And
yeah.
it's not, it's like, well, I guess I'll play music today. I'd really hate to do that, but it's never like that.
Yeah. Well, Corey, this is about time to wrap it up. Will you do me a favor?
Good, I'm hungry. What?
Will you forgive me for not being the greatest interviewer today?
You're the greatest interview I've had
That
today.
Mucinex nighttime has got me just, dude. I'm in la la land over here.
You are the.
I really haven't gotten even near to what all the stuff I planned on asking or.
Well, I'm
talking
sure
about.
I'll bump into you again. You're the best interview I've had all day. So.
Awesome. I'll take that. You're the best interviewer I've had all day.
Right.
Any last thing you want to say?
For anybody that's listening, if you want to contact any of these bands or stuff that I'm doing, you can go on YouTube and search for Cycle of Ruin Official. We have videos, live bootlegs of all kinds of stuff. We also have a blogspot.com site. CYnderblok on Facebook as well. They have a website, CYnderblok44.com, I believe. I have my individual personal Facebook page, Cory Jackson, Cory, and I also have an artist fan band page on there that's more or less personal, more live pictures, videos, gear talk, and things like that. It's facebook.com/Cory Jackson official. And
Awesome.
yeah, there's lots of interesting stuff if you are interested in what's going on with either one of those projects.
Cool. Excellent. Yeah.